but go ahead and share with others. So hopefully they'll join us in a few minutes, and we'll be able to maximize this outreach. I'm going to continue to share this. I've been sharing it for the past few days. I really feel like the information that we are sharing with you is beneficial to others. And so the more people we can get to be a part of this discussion, and more or less hear what we're sharing, I think it will help, in particular, those people that you are in relationship with. And so hopefully you'll send out some texts, you'll send out some emails. Um, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, you can, in particular, if you're on Facebook, you can do watch parties and all that good stuff. But I really need you to share this. Mount members in particular, I need you to share this. I need you to get other people to jump on and be a part of this discussion. Hopefully, you're hearing that message so that we can maximize the participation. Thank all of you who are on this Tuesday, and we're going to move rather swiftly into our discussion for the week as we are looking at the third love language. This is the third love language. Now, remember, we're using Gary Chapman's book, The Five Love Languages. Gary Chapman's book, The Five Love Languages. And somebody let us know. Make sure that you can hear us, you can see us. Just shoot us a message. All right. I see a thumbs up over here on Zoom. Hopefully somebody on Facebook. You can just let us know that you can see and hear us. Same thing with YouTube. Let us know if you can see and hear us. We are using Gary Chapman's book, The Five Love Languages. The Five Love Languages. That's what we are focusing on. All right. And we are maximizing on the conversation. So the five love languages, we are looking at not just intimate partner relationships, not just spouses, significant others, friends. I mean, not just spouses and significant others, but Gary Chapman has written books that go beyond that. His books focus on singles and men and children and teenagers. Also has another piece about God speaking our love language. And so this message is for friends, for parents, children, siblings, co-workers, etc. This is our fourth week of this discussion. Beginning of the fourth week. The first week we set the tone, dealing with what love is. All right. And so these pieces, these Bible studies are documented. These Bible studies are documented on our Facebook page, 6 Mile Zion Baptist Church, Richmond, or you can go back to, if you're a member or not, friend, I don't know why I keep on saying member, download our church app, 6 Mile Zion Baptist Church, Richmond, on your Android, on your Apple phone, and under sermons, you can catch this Bible study to catch up. All right. We've dealt with words of affirmation, and we've dealt with quality time, and we dealt whole weeks with these subjects, words of affirmation and quality time. I don't have time to go back and deal with that right now, but those Bible study subjects are out there. And so this week we want to start the third piece, the five love languages. Today we start and focus on the third group. All right. And that is receiving gifts. All right. Now, Gary Chapman shares this in his book. Anthropologists have studied cultures throughout the ages, and what they found is this: that gift giving is a fundamental expression. All right. It's a fundamental expression of love that transcends cultural barriers. All right. That gift giving, I don't care where you go in the world, of the five love languages, Gary Chapman wants us to know that gift giving is one that transcends cultural barriers. Now, he shares this in his five love languages for men's book. He shares that gift giving is also the one love language that probably raises an eyebrow or two. All right, not quality time, not words of affirmation, not acts of service, not physical touch, but it is gift giving. All right, and why? In some circles, what Chapman believes is this: that gift giving, especially when you look at it in this scope, all right, and you're trying to draw any connection between love and gifts, it can inspire whispers of materialism and gold digging, or even worse. All right, when you are thinking about this whole thought premise of gift giving, but we're going to look at it from a different perspective. All right, so we're not going to look at it from the viewpoint of what you spend. We're going to look at it from the perspective of what your actual gift means. All right. So you see on the screen, the cart is the gifts. The cart is the gifts, and the horse is the love. All right. The cart is the gift, and the horse is the love. All right. And so for us, the horse is in front of the cart. The horse carries the cart. All right. And so hear me today. If you're writing down notes or anything, and so again, maybe this is your first time hearing us. Maybe this is your first time with us. Why are we looking at these 5 love languages, and what do they mean for us? We are looking at the 5 love languages from this perspective. God loves us and challenges us to love our brothers and our sisters. It is a part of the journey. It is the most important part, that we show the love of God. That is the most important part of our journey. So for us, we're trying to figure out, how do we perfect that? All right. How do we perfect that? Especially when we're in intimate relationships with others. All right. So how do we share that when we're in these type of relationships that cause us to be in close proximity with our brothers and our sisters? And again, that's not just intimate partner, even though it includes that. That includes your relationship with your children, relationship with your parents, relationships with family members, relationships with friends, etc. All right. So this lesson is paramount. It is important. All right. It really is an important piece. And so you're asking yourself, we talked about words of affirmation, we talked about quality time, and then here comes this piece of receiving gifts. One of the premises that I want to debunk from the beginning is that gift giving is not necessarily, all right, about a person being materialistic. All right, it is not necessarily about a person being materialistic. All right. And so I'm believing, as Gary Chapman is, that those who have a genuine love language of receiving gifts, all right, their aim is not to amass a collection of valuable things, but rather to surround themselves with reminders of their loved ones' affection. And we'll talk about that today. We'll talk about that tomorrow. It's not just about somebody blinging off of what you're giving them, but this is your one of the great things that Gary Chapman talks about is the person with the love language of receiving gifts looks at your gift as a symbol of love. All right, a physical symbol of love. All right. Now, Chapman tells this story about Erik and Kelsey. He shares it in his 5 Love Languages book, and he shares it, I think, again in the men's book. May share it in another. I'll give you a quick synopsis. So Erik spent a year. All right, spent a year in the friend zone. All right, spent a year in the friend zone before Kelsey ended up deciding to go out on a date. All right. During the course of the year, Erik found out that Kelsey was a big baseball fan. So he took her to a minor league baseball game. I think it was a minor league team in Cleveland, or the minor league team of the Cleveland Indians, team in Indianapolis, if I can remember the story correctly. All right. So that's where they went for their first date. All right. So they were at the minor league stadium, and they had like a grassy knoll back behind the outfield fence. And so some of you have seen these type of, if you've not seen at um, a minor league stadium, you've seen the little league stadiums where they have these baseball fields, and out beyond the outfield fence, there is a grassy area that you can sit on. So this minor league team allowed the fans to sit back on the grassy knoll. All right. So they're there on their first date, and Erik and Kelsey are back on the grass, and just so happens that one of the minor league players hits a home run over the fence, and for the first time in Erik's life, all right, while they're out there having a picnic dinner, the story says just beyond the left field fence, there is a curveball thrown. Erik jumps up, catches it, all right, and it's the first time he ever caught a ball at a game as a home run ball, all right. So he was excited, impressive, barehanded catch. Story goes on to say 2 days later, Erik takes that very ball, all right, and he has the ball put into a plastic display, all right, and he turns that ball into a gift. He wraps it, he puts it outside Kelsey's dorm room, and he taped the inside the case. He taped the ticket stub from the game and inscribed on the ball two things. The first thing he said was, "My first home run catch," and then the second thing he said was, "It was the second best thing to happen to me that day." All right, that day. All right. So the story goes on. Within 2 years of their first date, they end up getting married, and the story is told that Erik's gift, 15 years later, Kelsey still has it on her bedroom dresser. That every single day she gets up and she's able to see it. All right. She also says that if anything ever happened to the house, it'd be one of the first things she grabs on the way out. Why is that important? Kelsey's reply is that Erik understood my love language. All right. And there was power in that thoughtful gift. All right. And so her primary love language was receiving gifts. Now, that gift would have came off differently if her love language would have been what? Words of affirmation, if her love language would have been physical touch or acts of service. But because her love language was receiving gifts, it hit on the head. All right. Now, why did you take the time to tell us that? Because again, it is important that you understand the love languages of the people that you are in relationship with. All right. Now, Gary Chapman says in the book that a gift is something you can hold in your hand, hear me, and say, "Look, that's the physical gift. He or she was thinking of me." All right. They remembered me. Gary Chapman wants us to understand that gifts, physical gifts, are symbols of love, physical symbols of love. And that physical gifts also go deeper than that, because to get the gift, you got to put thought into it. All right. So it is a physical symbol, and it is a thought that works with the gift. Now, it is important for somebody with the love language of receiving gifts that you put thought. All right. That's imperative. The gift itself is a symbol. It is a symbol of the thought. I hope you're capturing that, because this may be helping you if that is your gift. I mean, that is your love language. But more importantly, it may be helping you as you're dealing with somebody else. It is the thought behind the symbol. Now, it doesn't matter for those who have receiving gifts as their love language. It doesn't matter what the cost is. Now, we'll come back to that. All right. It may not matter. Let me say it doesn't matter, because there are some thoughts as it relates to that. All right. What is most important is you thought of the person. All right. And it's not the thought and planning only in the mind that counts, because sometimes it'll be like, well, at least I thought about you. No, it is thought enough that transitions out of your mind and then moves into an actual expression of securing a gift and then giving it, hear me? Giving it as the expression of love. Almost everything that's ever been written on the subject of love indicates that at the heart of love is the spirit of giving. Almost everything that's ever been written on the subject of love indicates that at the heart of love is the spirit of giving. If you go back and you start to look at children at a young age, children are inclined to give gifts to their parents. Now, there is a connection between love and gifts. All right. And that connection probably is more deeper than we even can realize. All right. Think about your first gifts that you gave as a kid. Think about it. You see this little kid, this little hand reaching out with a bunch of dandelions. Mothers remember those gifts. You go back. There are some people who keep everything. And this is imperative. These young people are trained to give. All right. We are trained to become givers at a very early age. All right. At a very early age. Gary Chapman talks about in his book how even now he has held on to certain gifts that his kids have given him. I too, the same way. Gifts that were given that didn't cost me anything that came from my kids. I've held on to some of those things. All right. And it may be something that they created while they were in church school, or they were created while they were in school. All right. Gary Chapman says that the fact that children are inclined to give gifts to their parents may be an indication that gift giving is actually a fundamental element to love. All right. Gifts are visual symbols of love. And I wish we had more people on hearing that. That's why I need y'all to share that. This is important. Gifts are visual symbols of love. All right. Whenever I perform a wedding ceremony, whenever I get to the portion where I ask the couples to exchange gifts, I tell them that the rings are a symbol of your love. They are a symbol. They mean something. All right. They are an inward bond that unites you two. All right. Now, here's the thing. For someone who has the love language of receiving gifts, that actual ring is a gift. And that person will probably never take that ring off because that gift is important. Not just about that ring, but any gift. When somebody has the love language of receiving gifts, the gift itself is important, especially when there's paramount amount of thought behind the gift. All right. Now, for you, if you're not somebody with the love language of receiving gifts, then the physical gift as a symbol may not be as important. But again, visual symbols of love are more important to some people than others. Now, you've heard that before. That's not the first time you've heard that, because I've been saying this the entire time. What makes one person feel loved emotionally is not the same. You hear me? It's not always the thing that makes somebody else feel loved emotionally. That's why it's imperative that you get these love languages down. It is important that you understand these love languages, because if somebody's love language is receiving gifts, and you straight giving them words of affirmation, then you're not connecting with that person. That person may say thank you, but they may not receive what you are sharing to the level that you are sharing. It's one of the things that I love about Gary Chapman's books, because he has so much experience with speaking to couples, and he has all these stories. And he has this story of a man and a woman who had been in a relationship for so long. Wife was ready to just end the relationship because her husband was not speaking her love language. Her love language was receiving gifts. And he grew up, and you'll hear me talk about this later, but he grew up in a place where he wasn't used to that. He also was very conservative with his money, and he thought that if he made sure she had a roof over her head, that she had what she needed, that she was good, and she did not feel connected to him. It was not until he heard a Chapman, he was a part of a Chapman conference that he went to and found out, and it actually sunk into his spirit that his wife's love language was receiving gifts. And he said, I said to myself, I was going to try for 7 days. I was going to do something every single day for 7 days and give her some type of gift. All right. Now, these were not extravagant gifts. It was simply things like, hey, I'm going to stop by and grab a piece and bring it home today. You don't have to cook. Or I'm going to stop by the store and get everybody their favorite treat. He said by the time he got to the 6th and 7th day, his wife was reinvigorated. That it seemed like he cared, and this young gentleman pretty much made sure that he let Chapman know that it was Chapman's piece on these love languages that changed the whole dynamic of their relationship. I'm telling you, if you can invest in that, it might change some stuff. Not just in intimate couple relationships, but in relationships with your children, relationship with your parents, relationship with your girlfriends and boyfriends and people that you are in relationship with. Speak their love language and let them know that you understand why things are important and that you're not going to put yourself first. You're not trying to force your stuff on them, that you're going to understand who they are. Because when both persons have their needs met, all right, your relationship has the potential to take on a whole new dimension. When both persons have their needs met, then your relationship has the potential to take on a whole different dynamic. Now, here's a scripture that I think can be and is applicable here. This is Matthew, the 7th chapter, verses 7 through 11, the NLT version. And this is Jesus again sharing. Very prophetic sermon coming to the end of it. All right. Keep on asking and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. All right. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks, what? Receives. Everyone who seeks finds. And to everyone who knocks, the door will be open. Now, if you want to go back and get the depth of this whole piece, I think you got to jump back to Matthew 5th chapter and read forward. Some beatitude stuff is mixed up in here. There's a really great applicable word that comes for Jesus. And when you read these first couple verses, you see, Jesus is saying, I understand who you are and I understand what you need. The 7th through the 11th verse is all about application. All right, application. Now, the part that I think is most relevant to our journey is this. You parents, hear me. If your child asks for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Or if they ask for fish, do you give them a snake? Of course not. Now, doesn't that seem, this is the Bible. This is biblical application to the journey that we're on. This Bible application is speaking of what we're talking about. Jesus is talking love language here. Jesus is talking human need. Jesus is talking relationship. Now, if you're a parent and you know your kid and your child asks for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Even if the stone is close by, even if the stone you can put your hand on. Now let's swap this out and say it was something else. If your child asks for a loaf of bread, and will you give them a bowl of cereal instead? Because it's easier. This is what Jesus says. Give them what they need, what they ask for. If they ask for fish, do you give them a snake? Of course not. And I love this. And what Jesus is saying, you got to understand, you got to know there's importance in the Sorry, guys. There is importance. Hit the wrong button. There is importance in understanding. All right. So here's the last part of that verse. So if you sinful people know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give gifts to those who ask him? All right. Now, that is Matthew 12th chapter. That's Matthew 7, chapter 7 through 11. I'm just going to share one or two more things, and then I'm done because it's 12:30. But I want to wrap up with this. If receiving gifts is my primary love language, if receiving gifts is the primary love language of somebody that I'm in relationship with, hear me. I/they will see the gifts as an expression of love. And this is important. You got to walk away with this. Without gifts as visual symbols, I/they may question the love. All right, I've told you, gifts are visual symbols of love for those whose primary love language is receiving gifts. Here's the last thing. Gifts come in all sizes, colors, shapes. Some are expensive. Others are free. Gifts may be purchased, found, or made. And I made this point earlier, and this is where I'll stop today. Tomorrow, I'll give you some practical tips on how to be better in relationship with those who have the gift or the love language of receiving gifts. Hold on to that Matthew 7 chapter, verses 7 through 11, because that piece is applicable. All right. Jesus is saying, and I know you see somebody in the back walking around in the sanctuary. Don't let that distract you. Jesus is saying in that 7th chapter, verses 7 through 11, 7th chapter, verses 7 through 11, that the relationship piece is core. Don't give somebody one thing if they asking for another. All right. Gifts come in all size, shape, and form. To the individual whose primary love language is receiving gift, the cost of the gift will matter little, unless it is out of line with what you can afford. Hear me. If somebody who has money, has some disposable income, gives only $1 gifts on a regular basis, the person that you're giving it to may question whether that is an expression of love. All right. But if your giving is limited, that $1 gift may speak $1 million worth of love. All right. So I'm going to pause here. I've got much more to share, and I'm looking forward to the ability and opportunity to be able to share that with you on tomorrow. I do have a couple of things that I want to share, and we're going to go ahead and pause this now with those who are on Facebook and YouTube. I'm appreciative of you guys joining us today, and get back on tomorrow, 12 o'clock. All right. Tomorrow, I'll be doing the same lesson at noon and at 6:30. All right. And so if you're on our Facebook page, our church's Facebook page, or you're on our church's YouTube page, then I'm going to invite you to get back on tomorrow and share this with somebody. All right. Share this with somebody. We're in the broadcast here. We always do this early with Facebook and YouTube because there is some information that I'm going to share with those who are on Zoom and Uber Conference that I don't want on a universal platform because there is some sensitive information. All right. Love you guys. Thank you for joining us today. And